Well, now we're going to get into a topic that I've been covering extensively, and that's the visit of Indian National Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. He is effectively, if you look at the U.S. political equation, with Joe Biden in office today, he'd effectively be like the Donald Trump, a guy who fell short in the previous election. Rahul Gandhi is up against it against Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is not just winning elections, but he is, I think, the most popular politician in the world with like a 70% approval rating. So he's really taking on a juggernaut. And, to give you some context for those of you that are unaware, Rahul Gandhi comes from this dynastic family. His family going back multiple generations have all had leadership positions in the Indian government going back to the founding of the country 75 plus years ago. So he's got this incredible legacy, and it's something that he wants to carry on. Yet the people have chosen otherwise, and there's a huge election coming up next year. And he's got his own personal strife where he was actually booted out of parliament in India, and he was speaking to that at Stanford University during his tour. He also had a private session with diaspora members in Santa Clara. He's gone on to Washington, D.C., and his whole trip will culminate in New York City at an event at Javits Center. I had a chance to sit in on his speech at Stanford. It wasn't easy to get in. I must say they didn't actually allow me in initially, but where there's a will, there's a way. I was able to cover the event. We have some of these clips if you want to check it out on Diya TV's YouTube channel to get full context about what he has to say. But I think one of the most interesting parts of what he said, specifically at Stanford, was he talks about how he was basically booted out of Parliament. It's on appeal, but it was based on a defamation case, and he used the term Modi in a derogatory way, of course, Modi being the prime minister, but he also was referring to two men named Modi that have both been convicted of crimes. And so he alluded to that fact and saying, well, what's up with, again, I'm paraphrasing, but, what's up with, Modi's being criminals? Something to that effect. And obviously that led up Modi, another Modi politician, to file a claim against Rahul Gandhi, and he was actually given a 3-year sentence, which is now on appeal for defamation. So he claimed at Stanford that this was the harshest sentence ever given when it comes to defamation in India. And so I think it's a very interesting kind of free speech battle because free speech in India is a little bit different than free speech in America. And a lot of people will criticize Prime Minister Modi for not taking open press conferences. He does have dialogue, but usually with favored people, celebrities and so on and so forth. And I think that we have that in this country as well. I think that's what's fascinating that you and I have been fighting over this COVID period is that political leaders of all stripes are not willing to take direct questions. They usually go to a preferred quote unquote journalist or someone that will ask them questions that they will generally know the answers to. But Gandhi is a guy in a real tough spot because Modi is a very formidable competitor, and not only has he mobilized the Indian community within India, but the Indian American community and the diaspora globally has been also energized to a degree that when the Congress Party were running India, they just never engaged to this degree. The diaspora globally, and of course, the diaspora has been growing exponentially around the world. But it's a really interesting dichotomy, and I thought the other poignant question that was brought up by a Stanford student was why are you courting support outside of your own country? Why aren't you trying to, are you trying to win favor outside? And why not just focus in on India? And he actually said he's not trying to win support out here, but he did want to have a conversation with Indian students, of which it's the largest, expat community of students. There's more Indian students here in the United States than anywhere else of any other demographic. So there's a huge contingent at universities, and so he's trying to shape and win the hearts and minds of 18 to 25-year-old Indians, many of whom are going back to India. Many of them, years ago would stay in the U.S. Obviously, it's very difficult to get a visa to stay here, but India's on the rise. There's a lot of economic prosperity going on and opportunities for well-educated people. So he's got a lot of challenges, still a lot of supporters here because of that history, that lineage of his family doing so much for India historically. And yet here's a guy who is at a crossroads, and it's been fascinating to watch.
So what's Modi saying about Gandhi, especially
Well,
his
I don't
trip
think
to the
Modi said a
U.S. since
word yet.
they're
And I think the
here
timing
pretty much at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, Modi is coming in just a couple weeks for a state visit to Washington D.C. So this was clearly timed, even though they said it was coincidental. But I think any of us who cover politics for a living will know, hey, this was a trip that was planned, to counter whatever messaging will come out in a couple weeks because it is a huge state affair in Washington with President Biden. There'll be multiple days of festivities. The diaspora has been invited. It's a lot of pomp and circumstance that will give a lot of good press to Prime Minister Modi. And so this is a way for Gandhi to get his messaging out there ahead of the election. Will that resonate? I mean, I think the diaspora has changed fundamentally. There's more information about all of these folks and all the criticisms out there, all the positive traits are out there. So we'll see what happens in 2024. But clearly, Gandhi's up against it if you look at the polling. And so maybe this is a way. Maybe if he doesn't get ahead in the next election, he's still a young man. I think that's the one thing people maybe forget. He's 52. So if he doesn't come out on top of the next election, I mean, Prime Minister Modi is in his 70s, and so the succession plan to Modi is definitely on people's minds. How long will he be in power? And so if Gandhi doesn't get things lined up for 2024, he certainly could be in the mix for the next election.